Good afternoon. Welcome to Business Broadcast. I'm Nikki Larkin, and today I have Nigel Elkes joining me. Hi, Nigel.
Hi, Nikki. Hi, everybody.
So today we are talking about maximising your sales value when you're exiting your business. We're going to be talking about quite a few. Sorry, bit of an echo. We're going to be talking about various different things to make sure that you maximize it, and also that you can understand what those offers mean so that you can fairly compare them. So because most of you will only sell your business once, well, you can only sell your business once. So we want to make sure that you know all the different possibilities, because there isn't just one size fits all. There's lots of different varieties. So where are we going to start, Nigel? We're going to, believe we're going to start at discussing the very first things. What are you actually selling? So some people will ask you if you're about to sell, they might say, oh, are you doing an asset or a share sale? What does that mean?
Well, yeah, there's different types, and I think our advice at any point was just be flexible in your approach, because obviously you want to sort of encourage the buyers to, sort of encourage as many buyers as possible. But generally, they're split into the two categories. There's a trade and asset sale or a share sale. Now, a share sale could also then be a partial sale, which we'll then move on to, and the different routes depending on the stage that your business is at. But yeah, a share sale is the complete company, is everything, and normally takes longer in the process, because what somebody's got to do is a lot more thorough due diligence as they're analysing the total company and the history from the year dot of that company. Whereas a trade and asset sale is, as it says, what somebody is buying is the trade and the assets of the business.
Indeed. And that doesn't necessarily mean one versus the other would be a different price necessarily, does it?
No, and it'll be sometimes buyers, so they don't have to do heavy due diligence, or they purely want to, for tax reasons. For buyers, sometimes the trade and asset purchases can be a lot more tax efficient, it can be cleaner, but it depends on the structure, and there's a lot of sort of factors of criteria and legalese within each of them. So it isn't really one or the other. As we generally act for the sellers, we would sort of aim for sort of share purchase agreements, and the share sales, and not the trade and assets, for a number of reasons. And one significant one is obviously the tax side of things.
Absolutely. The other thing that we wanted to go through, wasn't there? So it is good if you can be flexible when you're marketing your business, saying that, yeah, I'm actually flexible if it's a share sale or a trade and asset sale. You know, you might have a fixed decision, and that's fine. That's fine. But it's always want to try and widen it up if possible. The second thing is what you're actually selling, as in, are you selling all the business or part of it? So how can that work, Nigel, if you go, well, actually, I do want to get some money out now, but I don't really want to sell it all or still walk away from it? What are the different options to you if you were just thinking, I don't actually want to sell all of it?
I think some of it depends where you are on your business journey, and you may be of an age where, quite honestly, you work for 30 years for the company, you're ready to sort of hang up your boots, and so you may go for 100% share. There may be multiple shareholders, sometimes have sort of different aspirations or different thoughts, so that can then be structured in a way so maybe some shareholders sell out their share and others may keep theirs and be part of a bigger group going forward. Another scenario that we're sort of working with at the moment is where the business has got strong profits, phenomenal opportunities, and really what they need is sort of assistance and more of a leadership team for people to take them through the second phase of growth. So they're doing a partial sale, and that then brings to the table experienced people who have then been through that process, and a team covering the different skill sets to take them to the next level. So in that particular case, we always say people only sell the business once, but they'll be selling it twice, and it's part of their sort of growth strategy. And it depends on the personalities, it depends who's there, and all those things. Everybody has to sort of obviously get on, there's chemistry, but I think if you devise the strategy and you have a clear target and a clear sort of second phase sale in mind, and you're working, and that's all timetabled, then I think, and we've seen it work very well. So they're the different reasons for sort of a partial sale.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and there is much more nuanced in some ways, and it can be a bit more complicated to do. But for those that are thinking, oh, I want to keep going because I still think my business is going to be worth more. By doing that, you are still going to benefit from the ultimate sale, and hopefully at a much bigger price. But you've had to get that extra help to get you there, whether it's through a new angel investor or an experienced investor in that sector, some specialist consultant, or even potentially being private equity backed. Those are all really, really good options.
And I think sorry, I was just going to say, and I think it really helps in a sale where the owner is flexible with how long they stay in the business, and to have that approach. And sometimes what it does is actually help 100% sale of the company. So if sort of go in with an open mind, then there's more options available, and normally there's more value that has been sort of extracted out the deal in the sort of structure of the remuneration. So it can it certainly helps the sale.
Absolutely. So basic numbers, if your business is worth 10 million now and you want to sell 50% of it, so you get 5 million, but you've got that extra people in, so that actually that's great. You've got your 5 million, you've lost 50% of your business, but you've got 5 million now. But then if you can grow the business to 20 million, well, fantastic. You're going to still get another 10 million when you do your final sale. So it's hopefully should become a win-win strategy for you if you get it right. And as I said, it is nuanced, it is more complicated, and it isn't for everybody.
But it is massively assisted by doing it with somebody that has done it before, is experienced within it, knows how to get through every hurdle that will be there, and knows the hurdles before they get to them. So the whole journey, and actually as long as there's a good framework in place, it's quite a nice experience for some of the ones we've done for those business owners, because they're guided through that route, whereas to do it on your own and carry on is quite a challenging exercise, because again, every hurdle you're finding new experiences and everything, and so it can make it a tough journey if you do it on your own. So there's a lot of rationale behind doing it.
Absolutely. So the next area that is going to probably take up the biggest part of today is the payment structures. And the reason why we're discussing that is because sometimes it can be very complicated to work out which offer is the best. So we're going to go through the different things that can be within the payment structure that you really have to analyze and understand, so that you can clearly compare to work out which is going to be the best deal for you to take. Just before we go into all the different things, I just want to do a little mathsing with you. It's really important to understand what your money is worth today in the comparisons. So if you are being paid, say, £2 million today versus a deal that's £1 million today and a £1 million in a year's time, that second deal is obviously going to be worth less to you because, well, if you're in an inflation economy, not a deflation economy, it will be worth less. Plus, also, there's the risk of whether you're going to really get all of that million in the second payment as well. So we're going to go through all the things. We can't go through the real comparisons because it is very complicated. But so you really do need to sit down with your advisors and really compare carefully deals against each other to make sure you are comparing them fairly to see which is actually worth most to you. So, Nigel, looking forward, what different things could be within the payment structure that we should be comparing?
I think it's a really good point, Nikki, and obviously everybody's sometimes flattered by the enterprise value, the total price that somebody's paying, but then it's actually drilling down on and seeing when you get that remuneration and what, I suppose, very simply, what conditions are to that remuneration. So the first part is the day one payday, and obviously when we're working for the sellers, we try and maximize that day one payday. Certain sectors have certain sort of broad outlines of what's paid on a we don't want corporation tax in there.
I know.
Thank you.
It will be capital gains tax in it. Sorry, that was from the budget, came up the wrong thing there.
No worries. So you've got your day one payment, and then there's obviously further payments along the line. Some of those can be on an earn out basis. So if you forecasted certain figures, then that might be determined on delivering those. Now, really, the terms within that then have to be fairly rigid to ensure that there's not unnecessary costs put in the business, that you've got sort of the decision making process is very clear and transparent, and there's so many factors within the earn out bit. Obviously the preferred,
what we said about it, our presentation, our in-person one on Wednesday, was try to keep it simple. If you as a seller don't understand the earn out, then what chance has anybody else got to try and keep it a simple structure that the seller and the buyer understands?
and we would try and swerve this whenever acting on behalf of a seller, because it isn't in their ownership anymore, so it's not their decision making process. So you're exactly right, Nikki, to keep it as simple as possible. And the simplest way is with actual deferred payments, so set dates of payments that are then due, and that's what gets to the total enterprise value and the total remuneration for the business. So that's obviously the sort of preferred route, and sometimes there can be a mixture of both, or often there can be a mixture of both. So they're the sort of two main sort of ways of being paid. There's then sort of secondary ones, which then could be shares in a new business, for example, or loan notes, which are then not on a sort of specific date, or maybe at a certain time, and those could be incorporated. Equally, you have to then work out what the total deal is worth to you, and some of that may be depending on how the deal structure's been, whether you may have a property within the business or out of the business, then you get the rental from the property. You may get to keep some of equipment for a while, and then that may be sold on when the businesses are sort of merged onto a separate location, and the such like as redundancies, which we've seen, that can then be sort of part of the package. So there's a number of factors to really sort of consider in the overall money that you would receive, and over what period?
Just a reminder, we always like to see who's watching live. Always nice to hear from people if they've watched it later as well. That's always good. But if you are watching live, please do say hi now, and also do feel free to put any questions. There's a lot of content in here today, so do feel free to ask any question. No such thing as a silly question. The other thing, so the things on all those different payments. I think there was at least 7 or 8 different ways that you can become remunerated. And in some instances, you will have multiple things. All of those have different tax implications. They all have different timing implications. So, it is, you do have to very carefully compare how, you're not comparing apples with apples there, you're comparing apples with oranges, so you need to work out how you can compare the fruit salad. So yeah,
what I'd also sort of throw in there, and it's imperative you ensure that you then get what's then put forward. So the legal paperwork behind some of these, behind deferred payments, and ensuring that you've got them with the right security and everything, that's where the right legal advice is absolutely imperative. And so
always make sure you get really good commercial lawyers that do this. This is their bread and butter, that they do this day in, day out. There's no good using the guy on the high street that does your conveyancing when you sell your house. It's specialist commercial lawyers that you need that do M&A work all the time, and there's loads of them out there. We've used lots of really good ones: Clark's Legal, Gardner
Leader.
Sorry, I went blank there. Gardner Leader, IBB, Birdie and Co. There's loads of good ones that we can recommend. And also, key thing, some people try and think, oh, let's cut costs and have just one lawyer. No, both parties need to have lawyers, and sometimes you end up with 3 lawyers, because sometimes it's the buying company's lawyers, the selling company's lawyers, and then the individual directors often need lawyers to get advice on their consultancy agreements or their exit agreements or shareholders agreements or whatever else as well. So it is worth having the right ones, because if something goes wrong and you have to go into legal work on it, it's very, very expensive. So it's much better just get it right at the start. And hi to Nick and Belle, who's I know are watching live. Thank you very much. Right, the next part, so there's 2 more parts that we're going to be going through today. Next is we're going to talk about how can the headline enterprise value, how does it get chipped away? Why does it get chipped away through a deal? Or even, how can we get pushed up again? So, for example, at the moment, we've got a seller that they keep winning more and more work. Well, that's keeping the price up, which is fantastic. So let's get them all in there so you can get that price fully pushed up before the sale. So we're going to go through that, and then finally, besides any questions that you might have, we're also going to go through 3 top summary tips. So, Nigel, headline value. How can it get chipped away in the deal? Why does it get chipped away in the deal? And what can we do to prevent that happening? And why does it happen? All those other questions.
Well, yeah, I mean, as we all know, within businesses, there's so many moving parts. And I think probably a good starting place for anybody thinking about selling their business, it may seem a bit daunting, but is to actually look at the scope of the due diligence, look at what's required, what a buyer will be going through, and what they're like to see. So the simple answer is, if all your records are very transparent, they're very up to date, reporting's very accurate, everything is as it seems, that's what you want. But that includes all employment contracts, that includes all customer contracts, that includes customer contracts being how the buyer wants to see the customer contracts. And it might not be that a relationship for 10 years is sufficient against a contract. Now, this is all down to sort of what the buyer perceives. And obviously, some of them, most of them, not all, but a lot will be looking to sort of try and find chinks in the armor to then reduce the price down. So all of those aspects, from the employees to the customers and everything in between, somebody may then look at it, and then if they find something that isn't clear, isn't transparent, isn't as it's been told, then they may look to sort of try and reduce the enterprise value. I think it's, and the simple answer is to sort of, and that's what we often have said in previous sessions, is to get all the elements very clearly up to date, identified, transparent, and that's the information we present. And quite honestly, we present a lot of it. We don't disclose any confidential information, but we present a lot of it, maybe employee contracts or customer contracts and different things in the structure. So buyers have seen as much information as possible before you go to heads or you go into exclusivity. So you really sort of ensure that that's the case. And
yeah, you want to make sure in the due diligence there's not going to be any surprises.
Yeah, and it makes due diligence simpler.
Yeah.
So it will also help the speed of your deal if we've sort of covered off a lot of that ground, and you want the buyer to be 100% comfortable before they enter into exclusivity and heads of terms. So they're the elements that can reduce the enterprise value. I think from the word go, always disclose any skeletons that are in the cupboard, and say it from literally, oh, this happened 5 years ago, or there was this or was that. And so it shows that there's nothing in there, nothing left in the company that would enable anybody to be able to reduce the price for any reason. So yeah, it's just being as transparent and honest as possible with the presentation of all the information. That's the key.
Absolutely. Okay, so SK, do feel free to ask questions. I know that sometimes it can be, if you're the owner of the business, it's a bit tricky because you don't want to be in an open forum asking questions about the sale of your pros and cons and things of sales companies. So if you do have a question that you're a bit shy sharing in a public platform, do feel free to DM Nigel or myself, and we'd be very happy to answer any questions confidentially. We also do have another live session. This time it's going to be in London in June. We're just waiting for the definite date, but we will be sharing that date shortly. Okay, so top 3 summary tips to make sure that we get the best deal. So Nigel, what are your top 3 tips?
It's really to sort of prepare and plan everything as much as possible in advance, and that process, there's the best time is to start today. It's never too soon to start and get everything organized, and it's good business practice in any event. Then I think the next point would be to know what you're aiming for, know what you need in retirement, look at that total package of remuneration. Is it a partial sale, is it 100% sale, what are you getting from it, what's day one payment, when are the deferred payment dates, what's the charge on those, make sure they're delivered, all those sort of things. So but in essence, know your top figure, what you need and what's covered off by your pension, what investments cover off, and then what you actually need from the business. And I think the third point would be to, as Nikki's got it there, experienced advisors in your corner. You know, whichever role they're playing, just make sure they've done plenty of deals, they proven track record, they know what, as we mentioned earlier, from a business point of view, but throughout a deal, the hurdles and what's coming next, so that, you know, they know how to tackle it. So you just need experienced assistants on your side, looking after all your best interests all the way along, really. And as Nikki said earlier, it's not, certainly we see it sometimes on the legal side of things, and it's not worth cutting corners at all. How to go to and not sort of, as Nikki said, somebody who may have sort of looked after your conveyancing for your house, if they're not experienced in M&A, just make sure they're experienced within M&A. And yeah, that'd be the 3 tips, really.
Excellent. We've got a great question coming from Nick. What happens with working capital, and how many months is expected to be left in the business? Now, this is something that, you know, working in the Thames Valley, we see quite a lot of businesses that actually have got a lot of money in their bank accounts when they're coming up for sale. So it's a really good question from Nick. So Nigel, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, certainly. Good question, Nick. Thank you. Really, it's the payment cycle, isn't it? So you, what you're buying or somebody's buying is the business, and the business needs to function. So say if it's sold 4 o'clock on a Friday, Monday morning at 9 o'clock, when you open the door for the first time, that business has to be liquid. It has to have everything in place for that business to sort of carry on and produce those profits and opportunity. So really it's probably what the payment cycle is, and normally the working capital left in the business may be 1 to 2 months, maybe 3 months, but probably on average it would be 2 months working capital left in there. And basically, and it depends on the type of business. Where if it's a very much cash generative business, retail, for example, may be totally different to some manufacturing where there's a lot of credit accounts. So it does depend on the type of business.
Yeah, absolutely. The requirements of working capital really do vary, but if you can work out what the net cash is, so, you know, the cash in the business less what is required for working capital, it's great if you can get that out in the deal as well, because you'll pay the current capital gains rate, unless Rishi has completely ruined it for everyone by showing his tax returns, so everyone going on how has he managed to get all his loads of income at 20%. So that I really do expect that to be going up very soon. But yeah, if you can get your cash out at 10%, if you're still within your business asset disposal relief level, or at 20%, that's always much better than the much higher rates for the dividends. So it's very tax efficient if you can put that within your deal. Don't take the money out before the deal. Try and do it within it.
And I think, like you said, when sort of business owners have been running their business, you know, for sort of 20, 30 years, and they've built up big cash reserves, it's an exciting part of the deal. It's nice to be able to realise that and remuneration for all those years' hard work. So the surplus cash is the exciting bit, but unfortunately, it's just allowing a bit for the working capital for the business to carry on.
And don't worry if it is you're doing it as a trade and asset sale as well. It doesn't mean that you're going to lose out as well. You know, do talk to your tax advisors, because there's still ways to hopefully get that cash out very tax efficiently. To talk to an experienced tax advisor how to get that out at a low tax rate. Okay, I think we've covered lots today. Lots of really great tips. I'm trying to remember what we're doing, who we've got next. Oh, yes, excellent. We've got a great, so I'm being shocked. I'm being really organised. I've got like the whole next month or 6 weeks, I think, organised. Next week, we will be having Susan Marie, our lovely marketing expert, she's going to be talking about how to make clients come to you. You know, so that's a really good one. Looking forward to that. The following Friday is Easter.
Good Friday.
Good Friday. So that's the day where you're trying not to eat your Easter eggs yet and still trying to hide them in the cupboards and save them to Sunday. So there won't be a business broadcast that day. But the following Friday, it's going to be focused on pensions. I'm still just confirming which of the speakers it's going to be, but it will be focused on pensions. So it's so much jam-packed. This is taking you right up to summer, this is. So April the 21st, we've got a sales expert talking. I'm going to keep that under wraps for the minute.
That'll be good.
But that's going to be a really amazing sales expert there. And then on Friday, the 28th of April, Michael, you've got April off. You're not in. Because on the Friday, the 28th of April, from the Gorringe accountant side, we've got a success story of Michael Potter and Andy Wilkinson from Curve Workplaces. Now, they're an amazing success story of how they've grown their business, and they've been in the Sunday Times fast growth list, I think multiple times, because they're growing so fast and over a period of time. And they're going to be basically sitting in front of you, telling about what were the ingredients to help them grow their business so successfully. So that's going to be really good. Looking forward to that. And it's another one, they will talk a lot, so I can just sit there. It's going to be great. Excellent. So have a lovely weekend. Hope you're all doing something lovely. And do let me know any suggestions for other things. And please do feel free to DM Nigel Elkes or myself on any questions regarding exiting your business. We're very happy to give you, chats, because we know it's a very long process and decision, a long process to deciding to sell. So, you know, do not be worried if you're not going to sell it for 3 years. We're still very happy to have a chat. Because you know, those 3 years will fly by. We want to guide you in the right way. Anyway,
soon goes as well, doesn't it? Time flies.
Oh, absolutely. The older we get, it's flying by. Okay, have a lovely weekend, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye everyone.